Primal Fury brings 2 new forms, the new Primal Culture, 2 new tomes, and a whole lot more in the latest DLC for Age of Wonders 4. That's not even mentioning the free Wolf update bringing new hero adjustments, a necromancy rework, and a new bounty system to everyone regardless of if they buy the DLC. Just before we get started, a huge thanks to Paradox for sponsoring this video. If you want to pick up the DLC for yourself, then check out the link in the pinned comment down below. Now, let's waste no more time and get into the content. So kicking us off with the new creation options, of course we're getting 2 new forms with this DLC as just mentioned. First up we have the Goatkin, which of course look like goats. By default they come with Herbivore, Hardy and Tough. This allows them to consume flora obstacles in battle to regain health, as well as have more health baseline and defense right out the gate. We also have Lupine, which is essentially bipedal dogs. By default they come with athletic and pack tactics, making them much quicker at moving around in battle and on the campaign map, and much more effective when fighting next to friendly units. This DLC is also bringing a couple of new traits for Elephant and Mammoth mounts. It's pretty self-explanatory what each of these get you: big boy mounts with tusks and trunks and optional fur. In combat they both allow the hero to crush non-fortified obstacles, increase HP and grants faster movement. The Mammoth gains a little bit less HP and also gains frost resistance. While we're talking mounts, because there's nowhere else to say it, the DLC is also adding crocodiles, which are purely cosmetic and function the same as a boar. Now for the real meat of this DLC, the brand new Primal Culture. This is a culture which worships animal spirits, and depending on which you choose, this can have drastic effects on your game and playstyle. There are 7 beasts to choose from, each with their own affinities in game, meaning this culture is really like 7 different ones. Each option affects your affinity, starting location, terrain preferences, and gains you unique units and army effects. That said, all Primal Empires will gain access to these 6 unique units. Protectors are a tier 1 shield unit with good HP and toughness. The damage may not be anything crazy, but they can take a lot of punishment for this stage of the game and sacrifice any stacks they have of Fury to gain temporary HP for even more tankiness. Spirit Trackers are the tier 1 scouts, and of course these are only really meant to be used outside of combat to explore the map, and their stats and abilities reflect this perfectly. Primal Darters are a tier 1 ranged unit with the new blowgun weapons. This gives them 2 options for ranged attacks, with one allowing them to retreat upon use, making them great at hit and run attacks. The Primal Chargers are the Berserker shock troops of the Primal Culture. They have 2 charging attacks dealing massive damage, and have decent movement range and health, but not the greatest toughness. The Animus are a tier 2 support unit and are fairly standard as far as mid-game mages go. They can deal damage from a range, grant allies temporary HP, and summon primal animals to aid them in battle. And lastly, the Ancestral Wardens are a tier 3 polearm unit with great toughness as well as anti-large charging ability. Their damage is also pretty great with standard melee, as well as their lunge attack dealing damage to all enemies in an area around where they land. Now we can get into these spirit animals that you can dedicate your Primal Culture to. The Maya Crocodile will start you in a swamp and allow you to generate more food from swamp-based tiles. All units in your empire will be immune to disease, can move through swamp faster, and gain a boon granting them extra blight damage and diseased imbued attacks upon reaching enough stacks from attacking. These boons all activate the exact same way, so I'm not going to say it every single time since it'll get pretty repetitive, but you get the idea. Lastly, you'll be able to use the Primal Crocodile, a tier 2 mythic unit boasting strong toughness as well as high poison damage. The Storm Crow starts you in the grasslands and allows you to generate extra mana from grassland tiles. All units can move through grasslands faster and gain a boon granting them extra lightning damage in an area around their targets. They can also use the Primal Crow, a fast moving unit capable of dealing arcing lightning damage. The Glacial Mammoth starts you in the Arctic and grants you extra production from Arctic tiles and having the ability to build farms on snow terrain. All units move faster through Arctic tiles and gain a boon granting them extra frost damage and the chance to freeze targets. They can also use the Primal Mammoth, a tanky unit with great charging ice damage. The Ash Sabertooth starts you in the Ashlands and grants you extra gold from Ashland tiles and allows you to build farms on them. All units move faster through Ashlands and chasm terrain and gain a boon granting them extra fire damage to their targets and all nearby enemies. They can also use the Primal Sabertooth, a high fire damage unit with great mobility. The Dune Serpent starts you in a desert, allows you to build farms on sand, and all sand terrain gains you extra gold. All units move faster on sand and gain extra damage and blind targets they hit. They can also use the Primal Serpent, a tough, tanky unit with some decent melee damage and great mobility. The Tunneling Spider starts you underground, allows you to build farms on cavern terrain, and makes mushroom forests into favoured terrain, granting you extra knowledge. All units move faster through cavern floors, fungus fields, and mushroom forests, as well as gaining extra blight damage and lifesteal. They can use the Primal Spider, a tanky, poisonous unit, perfect for wearing down enemies. And finally, the Sylvan Wolf starts you in a forest, and all forest tiles grant you extra draft income. All units move faster through forest and can deal extra spirit damage, increasing per nearby ally. They can use the Primal Wolf, a very fast moving but tanky unit with great melee damage. Lastly, as well as all these options for creating your own empire, if you want to jump straight into the action, there's also 4 new pre-made rulers to choose from to get straight into things. Birchfoot the Hermit uses the Primal Culture dedicated to the Storm Crow, as well as using the Goatkin form and their default traits. If you're looking to be a food and magic powerhouse and play on the side of good, then he's a great option. Webpotep is also a Primal Culture, this time dedicated to the Dune Serpent. They use the default Lupine form, giving them a cool Anubis vibe, and aside from this, they're gold-focused merchants who want to accumulate as much wealth and production as possible. Arvik the Dark is another Primal Culture dedicated to the Glacial Mammoth. If you wanted an evil playthrough, then this is the choice for you. They're focused on Necromancy and have no interest in allies. They have a really cool look and feel with the frozen undead riding mammoths, what's not to love, especially with that Necromancy rework. And finally, Serena, she's actually one of the God-ear rulers from the New Realm and is a Primal Culture dedicated to the Sylvan Wolf. She's got a magical preservation focus, wants to maintain the natural balance, whether through alliances or warfare. If you want someone right down the middle, then she's your pick. This DLC is also bringing 2 new tomes to the game. First up, we have the Tome of Fate Mists. This is a support-focused tome with 4 of the texts focusing on spreading mist throughout the campaign and battle. On the campaign map, mists will cause targets to be invisible to all other factions, but also have reduced vision range. In battle, they make units harder to hit with all attacks and grant friendly units random positive effects. Don't worry about any negative effects for your own units either, as Fey Touch will allow you to imbue a race with Fey Guile, essentially ignoring all vision and accuracy penalties from mist, leaving you to sneak around both maps, no problem. Lastly, the Mistling is a tier 3 skirmish unit that can deal great damage from a range or in melee, inflicting negative effects on whatever it hits. Overall, this tome is nice and focused, which I love, and offers some strong abilities and synergies, which make the whole package a great pickup for any nature-based empire. I would advise you to make sure you grab Fate Touched and apply it to everyone that you can. If you don't, you can run some issues with your own units being at a disadvantage instead of enemies if they can't deal with the mists themselves. We also have the Tome of the Stormborn. This tome is focused on water and manipulating terrain and ocean to your advantage. You can increase your coastal production, place negative effects on terrain, slow others down, deal massive damage in battle, and imbue a race with the Naga form, making them much more effective at all aquatic activities and resistant to lightning and blight damage. Lastly, the Stormbringer is a unique tier 4 skirmisher capable of dealing great area damage with attacks that arc to nearby enemies. This tome is one that I'd only really call essential in certain realms, including the one added with this DLC. All those water-based buffs will be great if you're dealing with a lot of coastline, but if you're playing on a desert map, then you're going to get practically no use out of this one. The unit is cool and the damaging spell is pretty neat, but aside from that, this is a very situational tome that you'll only use on certain maps. And the last bit of paid content is the new realm, the Storm Reefed Isles. This is the one and only realm coming with this DLC and features an island-based primal world covered in forests and very few free cities. You'll have to cross the hostile seas and choose a side in the eternal war between the God-ear, Nimue, and Serena. This is a very small realm with only those 2 other empires keeping you company, meaning you're going to be getting into those wars pretty much right out the gate, and no matter what side you pick, you're going to have one hell of a fight on your hands. You can choose a side and work with one to take down the other, or take no sides at all and attempt to convince them to go for a peaceful solution, but that's going to be incredibly challenging with how much they hate each other and you if you refuse to pick their side. Moving over to the free content in the Wolf update, we have the brand new War Bounty system. This is a whole new system in game where you can place bounties on certain targets, such as cities and outposts owned by hostile factions. These bounties are in the form of gold and mana, and once another empire completes the objective, they'll earn the rewards. Alternatively, should another empire set a bounty, you can attempt to complete it to get the rewards for yourself. If you're doing this, just be aware that others may also be trying to claim the same bounty, so look out for anyone swiping your reward after you soften up the target. This is pretty much another way to get aid in wars from other empires without being allies. Since anyone can complete a bounty, you're just asking for help from anyone to pile the pressure onto your enemy. Just make sure the reward matches the challenge, otherwise you might struggle to find any hunters willing to take it on. Hero recruitment is also seeing a small rework. It's very simple, but a great change. Instead of hero capacity being tied to your number of cities, instead it now increases as the game goes on and can force an early increase by spending Imperium. As well as this small change, any army with multiple heroes in it will suffer from reduced morale and XP, meaning doom stacking all of your heroes in one army is not at all viable, so make sure everyone has their own armies to look after. And lastly, we have the Necromancy overhaul. This entire system has been reworked with changes to tomes, soul generation, and a new post-combat raise dead mechanic. This allows you to have the chance to raise undead units post-battle to bolster your armies instantly and get an edge in your next fight. This means there's a bunch of new undead skeleton units from the Skeleton Warrior all the way up to the Bone Horror. Make sure that you stock up on souls so you can pick these guys up whenever possible. These units are often related to what exactly you beat in battle, so if you want to get a hold of those higher tier undead beasties, make sure you're taking the fight to the living ones first. If you do get the option, make sure you pick up any you need there and then, as you won't get the option later if you choose to pass and end your turn. From playing around with this with my Manfred von Carstein Empire, it feels a lot more like you're playing as a necromancer instead of just some guy that looks really pale. Souls come in thick and fast with all the new options to harvest them, and creating undead armies for some added muscle is great fun, looks cool, and works seamlessly. What more could you ask for? And I believe that sums up everything that is new coming in Primal Fury and the free Wolf update. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited about for this DLC. Like, subscribe, and if you want more Age of Wonders 4 content, then why not check out this video for my complete beginner's guide to get you started.